Hey, welcome to VEDA, day 30, the last VEDA. I'm going to tell you the truth. I have been putting this video off the entire month because it's kind of a touchy / controversial subject, and it's a good time for me to do this video because our oldest child is 4. And so we are starting some type of education with him this year. So we're going to be getting questions and answering them. And so I thought I would just kind of get a head start on those answers maybe for some people if anybody has questions about why we're going to homeschool. So I'm really new to this, obviously. We have done very minimal homeschooling, and I'm really new to the whole community of homeschooling. So my research, I guess you could say, is not very exhaustive, and I don't have much experience, so just take it for what it's worth, I guess. So the first reason that we want to homeschool our children, we would like the primary influencers of our children, to be us. And mainly that's because of our faith. So, and also I'd like to say that this is especially crucial, we believe, during this volatile stage when the child is really young, like elementary school age, that they are just so easily influenced by others. So to kind of put this in different words, we are Christians, we love the Lord, we believe that the Bible is God's Word, and so we try to teach our children biblical principles that are in the Bible, such as showing kindness to others, and patience, and self-control, and obedience, not taking the Lord's name in vain, stuff like that. And some of these things are not, I guess, just not as valued to other families. And so sometimes we can see that, and sometimes, we can't. But ultimately, we want the primary influencers to be us, and hopefully the Lord, hopefully the Bible, and hopefully we are influencing our children in a biblical way. We are taking the Bible, teaching it to our children, and we're not, I guess, diluting it or translating it in a horrible way. Of course, we are sinful too, Joel and I, and we have a hard time showing God's character in our own lives, and in the way that we parent our children. We try to reflect God's character, so that way the child can grow up understanding who God is, and the balance of that love, that grace, that wonderful love and grace, with the judgment and the hatred of sin, just having and the consequence, having that balance, and just seeing that lived out through your parents, understanding it, growing up with an understanding, we think is just so important. So we, of course, would love to establish a really firm foundation in those type of principles, and so we want to be the primary influencers of our children. So I came up with a few examples of this, just in case people were wondering. So like a small example would be when your kid is around other kids and they start saying like ain't, or they start using the wrong verb tenses of things, and you're like, where did this come from? We've never spoken like this before. You've always used the proper words. You've never used ain't in your life, and now all of a sudden, because you're around these other kids, you are, Or they're saying, they're taking the Lord's name in vain. They're saying, oh my God. And we're like, we've worked on this for so long, that our family doesn't say that, and all of a sudden, we'd have to kind of talk about that more. So that's a small example. A bigger example would be toys and clothes, and just wanting more things, instead of being thankful and grateful for all the things that we have, all the wonderful blessings we have, how we really don't need anything because we're so provided for by God. Instead of that, they have this attitude of, I want this, I want that. So-and-so has this cool new toy, or this, I don't even know, what are the VTech things, or I don't know, they even have like their own iPads and stuff, like whatever, like things that kids have that our kids would think that they would need because they're around other kids. And so this whole attitude, I guess, would just be something that we wouldn't want them to have. We would feel like that's unbiblical. So an even worse example, or even worse kind of graver offense, would be disrespecting adults, disrespecting teachers, or any adult when you're a child. And if that would, if our children would start to disrespect adults, or if they would start to disrespect us and not obey, of course they do that all the time, but just a pattern of doing that more and more, of going backwards, that would be concerning to us. So those are some examples. We do of course understand that there's a time to let the child test their wings and fly and be on their own. We understand that, and we both agree that that needs to happen. Although we both agree that it's at this point in elementary school, even middle school, that it's a little too early to be pushing these children out to test their wings. So some people would totally disagree that putting them in school is testing their wings, and I totally understand that. But so take that for what it's worth. That's kind of our view on it. We're not concerned about sheltering them too much at this point. We're not concerned about that. Later on, we will talk about, when to kind of loosen the reins and get them kind of to understand why they believe what they believe, and see it lived out in the real world, and be, hurt by others, and whatever, those type of experiences for sure. Yeah, they have a time, but not right now when they're 4, 5, 6, 7, like very small children. We don't think that that's the time for that. So I also just a side note, it's kind of in this same category, but some parents are just concerned that it would just be too much, and they would just hate their kids if they're around them so often or something, because we all need a break. Right now I have a break because it's nap time, and it's a wonderful time. I don't feel bad to say that I enjoy a break. But I just, sometimes the different relationship that you have with your children as you teach them, you understand your child's learning style better, and your relationship just goes to a whole new level. At least that's what I've read. So sometimes I've read that it makes parenting easier, because you just have this deeper, better relationship, and you can understand your child, and your child understands you. So take that for what it's worth, I guess. But I just wanted to mention that because I found that very interesting and encouraging. So, of course, we can make our own priorities in the school. What's important to us, as opposed to, just when you put your kids in school, you have to be subject to what the school thinks is important for the certain amount of time spent on certain things. So, for instance, we could spend 2 or 3 hours on studying the Bible, and that definitely wouldn't be done in a public school. So that's just an example. But reason number 2, time. So I think on average maybe 30 hours a week. I might be wrong on that, but a child could be at school, in first grade, and when they come back home, you do get some time with them, but usually they're like tired and cranky. They're like just the leftover hours of the day, and sometimes they have after school activities, and so then you get like maybe dinner and then maybe like an hour. I mean, just you don't have much time with them when they're at school. And I think, going back to my first point, ultimately, 30 hours a week is a lot of time to be spending around other people. And so having to kind of, undo and reteach things for those, precious 3 hours a day that you see them. I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but, you don't see them as much. So it just would be a lot harder. The amount of time, you have so much more time when you are homeschooling. You have a lot more time to invest and instill the things that you want to instill in your child. So other points in this area of this number 2 of time, just the amount of driving around sometimes for some families, depending on where the school is, and if you have a lot of different children in different schools, you could spend just as much time in the car driving them to and from, picking them up, waiting in line, whatever, as a homeschool family would spend the entire day doing school, 3 hours. So I don't know, that just kind of was eye-opening to me when I'm not in that stage. If my kids were in school, I wouldn't be in the stage where not yet, because they're so young, but I could see how that would be a little, I don't know, frustrating. Like, I would think to myself, is this what I, as a mom, all I'm doing is just driving? I'm just like a chauffeur, and then rushing around, trying to get places on time, and then I only get a couple hours with my kid at night. I don't know. It would, that'd be really hard for me. And I know, it comes on as a gradual thing for most families, but for us, we'd like to keep those 30 hours a week with us, and we'd like to, I don't know, not be so pressed for time, I guess, and ultimately have that extra time to be influencing them instead of other children influencing them. So, and then number 3, there's no question that, homeschoolers have a better education if there's any type of structure in the homeschool. Of course, I'm not including unschooled families that don't do any type of structured education. We will definitely be doing some type of structured education. So, who knows the reasons for that? There's probably a variety of factors, but one, for sure, the ratio is better. If you ask any teacher what is one of the main reasons or what will determine how the year's going to go, they will probably say it has something to do with how many kids they have, and if you have 25 to 30 kids, I'm going to have 3 or 1 right now. So, that's so much better to have that one-on-one ratio. So, and there's a lot of studies, I guess, that show that homeschoolers were at least 1 grade level ahead of public school kids. And there's certain tests that they take that have shown that they've done better. And there's also, of course, flexibility in teaching and learning styles, which this could be another reason why they excel, is because you can tell what type of learner your child is, and then you can change how you teach them. And I'm sure that any public or private schools, they can't do that. They can't do that for all 30 children. They can't change the curriculum for those children. So, in a lot of ways, the education is better, even if you have someone who's not really qualified, like me. So, I guess I have my BSN, but I don't know what that means as far as education. But, ultimately, I know I know my children, and right now I'm not too intimidated by the things that they need to know being in elementary school. So I will probably get nervous later on, even in middle school when they start reading really complex books and asking me questions. But I'm just taking it one day at a time and looking ahead, I guess just 1 year at a time, and not getting too stressed out about it. This year in the fall, we're going to start, well, we're teaching Joel to read right now. Probably only do about 20 minutes a day of a reading lesson with him. And then in the fall, we will start a more structured teaching with him, depending on if he's still napping or not. But I will be doing reading, writing, and math with him throughout the day. Not sure how many days per week yet, but most of the day, at least 3 days a week, I would think. And then we'll also be taking him to a homeschool co-op, which is I guess it's a group of families that gets together and they learn a certain way. Usually, they have certain things in common. And they do, science or art projects together. They learn certain subjects together, things like that. So this particular co-op is a little bit different than most co-ops that we're doing, but we have our reasons for that. We have more of a focus, I guess you could say, on reading. At least that's the style that we have chosen at this point. And from what I have read, your styles change quite a bit. So we need to remain flexible to how I'm going to teach and how Joel is going to teach and how Joel's going to learn. So, and we are open to all those things. But those are the reasons that we want to homeschool. And I'm sure I left a ton of stuff out, but that's all I could think of for now. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you've been watching this whole month too, I really appreciate it. And I will, of course, answer any questions that you have. Thanks.